Welcome to the Point. Welcome. Glad to see you in another opportunity to address some of the issues that are going on in our state. And it's again an election year, and session opened up in our state with the legislatures January 12th. And there's been quite a bit going on in this session. In fact, there's some concerning things that have been going on. I think one of the concerning things, first of all, is read somewhere that Washington State, the legislature, has had over 1,000 bills introduced in this session so far. In the same time period, we read somewhere where Idaho had 15 bills. That right there tells us a little bit of something that's going on that's not healthy. But anyway, in regards to that, we thought we'd bring you up to speed with some of the things that are going on for us as citizens, how we can conduct ourselves as biblical citizens. And I'd like to introduce you to Larry Gott, who you know, at least most of all of you from the church family, you would know Larry. And Larry and I and a friend, a lawyer friend, have been doing some work on what's going on concerning some of the bills that are down in Olympia and the concerns they could have for us. And quite honestly, there's so many bills that are concerning, we could not give our attention to all of them. And so what we're doing is looking at three that are just really critical, and thought we'd give you a little bit of insight into those three. And so, Larry, I was thinking it might be good if you were able to give us a little bit of an overview of the three concerning bills. And as I mentioned, there's a number of concerning bills, but three that are almost existential in a lot of ways. And could you walk us through that?
Sure, be happy to. Just before we get started, you already know this about me, but of all the studies I've done, English, history, and government were the most disliked. And yet here I am diving deep into all this stuff. And it's because it's a need. And it's part of our civic duty. And as we think about our kids, our grandkids, and the body that we lead, it is a responsibility we have. So it's not out of personal passion to do it, but it is passion for those that we care for.
Yeah.
So I'm not a lawyer, as you know, as well. And so what I'm going to share actually is from the perspective that I come from, which is more of an engineering and a business standpoint. So it's looking at big systems, looking at how things connect, looking at systems and patterns. And so the minute detail, I don't let it get in the way,
Right, yeah,
quite
yeah.
honestly. I know it's important, but anyway, just to set context.
Sure.
Yeah, so there are three bills. And the first one is on what we call the AG overreach, power overreach, and the AG, Attorney General. And as most of you know, and I know as you know, the Attorney General is essentially the legal office for the state. So their role is to represent the state. If the state gets sued, it's their role to also give insight to the legislature. And that's their primary role. When it comes to search and seizure for cases, that comes about, a search warrant comes about through the judicial branch of the government through search warrants. This AG bill is actually to move that authority into the AG, which is under the executive branch. And so what we have is this major violation of a key principle of our Constitution, which is separation of powers. And so it's really trying to move more of that search warrant and search and seizure power to the AG outside from the judicial. So that really is a red flag that we need to be aware of. The second one is on initiatives and referendum. Those are the two methods that the public have to actually either initiate bills into law or to reject or modify those that have been passed by the legislature. And we're all familiar with it. We did the Parental Bill of Rights the last time. But what they're trying to do is make a high hurdle to even get one of those started, where you have to get a number of signatures, which costs money, time, and effort. And so it's a way to actually silence the voice of the people through that mechanism.
Yep.
And then the third one is around the sheriffs. In our state, when it comes to law and order, the state police chief is appointed by the governor. So the state police is under the executive branch. The sheriff is really the only law enforcement that is voted in by the people and represent the people in upholding the Constitution. And what they're trying to do is make requirements and certification of the sheriff that's held by a state agency, and so they can then actually decertify, if you will, or remove a sheriff, but then a state agency appoints a replacement. So again, an attack on the voice of the people, really. So that's a quick summary of those three bills.
Yeah, yeah. And it is concerning because it's actually a restructuring of our Constitution
Correct.
without any amendment process.
Hmm.
And it's concerning for us because of the way it could play out in terms of the rights that we have. So it kind of gets to some of those issues of inalienable rights that we have talked about and addressed in the past. And it's just coming at it from another angle
Yep.
to rob us from that. Well, with these proposed bills, and they're very concerning, we certainly want to make our voices heard. And we know that in some ways we're even wondering if our voices do get heard, but we can't give up. We still need to continue to press in with our biblical citizenship responsibilities. And so, how can we participate in the process, Larry? What's some of the timing
Sure.
mechanisms and some of the structures that are in place that allow us to be able to make our voices heard?
Yeah. Well, as you know, and you said, we're in the middle of session right now. But if we look at the overall process, this timeline kind of gives you an overview, and we're halfway through it. But as most know, any law, any bill that gets made into law has to pass through both chambers of the Congress and then get signed by the governor. And so the blue represents the originating house, and it starts out in policy committee. If it passes through that, it may need to go through financial committee, and then eventually it goes through a rules committee, which is really a funnel to determine what actually goes to the floor. After that's done, it moves to the other side of the chamber and follows a similar process, which is shown in the purple. And really, right now, we're just coming up on things coming out of the original floor process. And then they'll be going to policy committee on the other chamber. The green line shows how we can get involved. So there is public hearing during those committee meetings. And so that's the time when you can go in, you can vote pro or con, you can do a written testimony, or you can even sign up for an in-person testimony during those hearings, during the public hearings. Also, kind of concurrent to that is we can flood our legislators, both our local and statewide, with our views on how we want them to vote on those.
Oh.
So we really are kind of moving into the second half. And then after that's done, there is this reconciliation period, which is just making sure all the commas, everything match up. And then it goes to the governor. He has 20 days to actually sign it into law.
Yeah, and so as you mentioned, we are in the middle of a session right now. And as of this recording, there have been some that have passed from the place of origination, whether it was in the Senate or the House. And so now they're switching, and so those bills go to the other. And so we actually do have an opportunity in the coming weeks, a window to be able to make our voices heard.
Yep.
And what we will be doing is we will be communicating with our people. So just as you know, as a church family, we'll be sending out emails, doing what we can to keep you up to speed with what is happening, what is going on. As of this recording, just yesterday, two of the bills that are very concerning passed the Senate and were handed over to the House. And it has to do with the AG powers overreach, and then also the sheriff's decertification, the ability to decertify sheriffs. And so we'll be sending out some emails this week as to how you're able to make your voice known concerning those. Those are two critical bills. I mean, they do speak to the ability for us to operate and function as a people, and the freedoms and the rights that God's given to us. So we'll be in communication with you on that to help you get engaged in this process as well. Larry, any other thoughts as we kind of wrap up this first session? Because in the next session, we're going to be looking at how some of the things we're looking at right now is the result and the fruit of what has been
Yep.
going on for several years, but they're finally penetrating some of the constitutional protection that we have as
Right.
citizens, and it's been going on. And so next time we'll look at how that's been happening. But is there anything else that you would share just as we wrap up this first session?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest things is take action, but also be bold and let other people know. Get other people engaged as well. I think, traditionally as Christians or those that are more on the conservative side, we tend to back off on that. I think we need to break through that. We're in a battle, and we need to be bold, and so we need to get engaged and encourage others to get engaged as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
And we will see you next time as we continue on with part two as we navigate the season that we have with all the election cycles going on.